Hey friend, welcome back to the Vision Driven Health Podcast, your go-to show for learning how to create healthy habits that last in partnership with the God who created you. If you are someone who experiences joint pain, back pain, headaches, or if you're someone who has had challenging pregnancies or postpartum experiences, you've got chronic digestive issues, maybe you're someone who's battling autoimmunity, you might be surprised to find that a holistic chiropractor can help bring relief in all of these different areas. Today, I'm bringing back Ralph Winestock, my personal chiropractor, to talk more in depth on the purpose of chiropractic, the ailments it can help, and how you can get the kind of support he describes. Do you find yourself struggling to consistently implement healthy habits? Do you lack energy, confidence, and motivation because of stress, overwhelm, and shame for having not gotten it together by now? Friend, there is hope and grace for your health. Hey, I'm Robin Ryan McDonald, host of the Vision Driven Health Podcast. I'm a follower of Jesus, a wife, a mama of two, and a seminarian turned health coach. And I'm so excited that you're here. I found myself in my early 20s captive to cravings and convenience. 20 pounds heavier, super tired, with a face full of acne. I could not figure out how to maintain healthy habits until I discovered the power of aligning my choices with God's vision. 10 years and 2 kids later, by the grace of God, I'm still prioritizing my health and feeling amazing. If you are over quick fixes and are ready to feel good in your own skin, then grab a giant water bottle and let's dive on in. As a reminder, the Vision Driven Health Podcast is under the umbrella of Naval Health Incorporated. The content on this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. It is not intended for medical advice. It does not take the place of medical advice or treatment from a physician. Listeners should consult their own doctor or a qualified healthcare professional for specific health concerns and questions. In today's conversation, we actually talk a lot about nutrition and its benefits. And after listening, you might ask yourself, okay, what do I eat then? I have been asked this question many times, and in response, I've created the What to Eat mini course, a short and simple course that covers the basics of what to eat in order to provide your body with the nutrients it needs to thrive. You can get it for 15% off using code LISTENER15. Go to visiondrivenhealth.com/what-to-eat to gain access today. All right, today we have an incredible guest. We've got Ralph Winestock, and as a follower of Jesus, Ralph has learned to adapt and integrate that which is good from chiropractic over 43 years in active practice, being able to explain in layman terms the science and the art separated from human potential movement and false applications. That which is real and reproducible is very good. So he has been able to bring this all to the table to enhance confidence and future experience of his clients and those that he's able to share with, which happens to be us today. Ralph, welcome to the Vision Driven Health Podcast.
Hey, Robin, and everybody out there. Well, by the way, just that intro, I think I should just go home. You did such a great job.
Thank you. So you have been a chiropractor for 43 years, which is amazing. Tell me more about what got you into chiropractic and what does those many years looked like for you in terms of what you've learned and how you practice today.
Yeah, that big word practice is something that comes out. You keep going and you modify, you learn your techniques. I like to stick to scripture that tests everything and cling to that which is good.
Amen.
And I've had that opportunity. Yeah, it's like I've had 4 practices now, and I've refined everything along the way, and I've really stuck to that with works. It's effective, and I know it's effective. I can reproduce all day long. And there's a lot out there that people it's like a big wow moment. But do these things actually practice and in practice work? And I've had that opportunity to see it from like the 30,000 foot viewpoint and know what is working and why it's working. and cling to that which is good for a variety of reasons. Sometimes it's the very scientific side, sometimes very clinical side, which helps fill in the gaps. But you want to do both. It's sort of like spirit and truth in scripture. You want to mesh the two. And I think I've been able to do that very well.
Nice. So then what got you into chiropractic in the first place?
Oh my gosh. Well, I got to give some credit to my mom, who I'd
Oh.
be sitting behind her on long vacation trips, and she'd want to, I'd just reach over the seat and start massaging her shoulders. And she'd just ooh and ah and go on. And I was a teen. I was like, I'm bored here, and she's enjoying this, so I'm going to keep going. And she just said, "You have really, really great hands, and they're just comforting." And so that stuck in my brain. And before I was a chiropractor, I did some massage and got, for whatever reason, that was interesting to me. I'd been involved in martial arts where they would practice massage and a very rough form of general manipulation. By the way, don't do that. My neck and back were never worse than after that. It was when I got into chiropractic college that we got to reverse all that. However, so then the last thing would be a friend of the family that he was a chiropractor and he was a friend of my parents. I went to his office a couple times and I just jived. I really liked him. I really liked how his life had unfolded, and I was intrigued by that. And that got me started. And then the third thing that did it was I was waffling between helping my dad in business and doing some soil science stuff. I'd traveled and got infatuated with stuff. But I looked in this. This tells you how old I am. I mean, I looked in a career catalog. No net, nothing like that yet. And I saw this description of, generally getting the nervous system in balance and restoring health. And it was much more than that. And I read it and you can get paid for that. Those were my words. So yeah, that just steered me right into the chiropractic uh, direction. And I've never looked back.
Nice. Well, that's a great segue because I think if someone hasn't actually gone and seen a chiropractor and they've only heard people, maybe their friends go and they hear their friends like, oh yeah, like I imagine people have heard people explain going to the chiropractor for different reasons. How would you just boil it down? What is the goal and purpose of chiropractic?
Yeah, the goal and purpose of chiropractic is to restore health, to restore balance, to restore your body's original setup as much as you can. In other words, we are going along in life like you can imagine a car, you're going along and you got a new one and everything's great and there's no maintenance issues and so on. But you go 30,000 miles down the road and things start to happen. Your brakes wear out, you need new tires, etc. Your engine's not in tune. So this happens to human beings too. It really does. I mean, we all brush our teeth, right? And we take showers. These are called maintenance. We need maintenance in our lives. We need maintenance in daily living. If you don't sweep up around your house or trim the lawn, everything looks pretty disgusting after a while. It doesn't function well. So it's a combination of getting our structures back under gravity and restoring really clean function so that the nerves can express themselves both directions, going down from the brain and going up from the organs and tissues. Now, this is not about pain management. You know, can I interject what we talked about earlier at this point? Okay.
Sure.
It's like this. It's like that meme, what people think I do and what I actually do. So, people think it's like this. If you called the fire department and they came to your door and you raced the firemen into the kitchen and you pointed them up at the ceiling and go, the smoke up there, it's coming, it's all around the room. The smoke's coming from there. I can see it. And I can hear that loud noise. And the reality is the smoke's coming from your stovetop because what you think you're feeling pain, right? You're pointing at the smoke detector when you're telling me about the pain. Go ahead and tell me. That's okay. But that's not what I'm looking at. I'm looking at where's that smoke coming from? It's coming from your stove. If I dwell on that pain area, your house is going to burn down. And that's true. If I treated your pain, if I pop you here or I click you there because that's the big wow you're always thinking that chiropractic is, you're just really your house is going to burn down. It's not at all what we do, and it's way more sophisticated and scientific than that. And that's the whole thing I've learned over the course of time.
Well, and I think that's so great. I was actually just talking with a friend yesterday about some of the big challenges with the perspective of the medical arena in general, where it's primarily symptom management and actual care and focus of, I think, very well-meaning, trained individuals. They don't know how to look outside of, to use your example, the smoke and the alarm. They're like, oh yeah, this air filter is going to clear out the smoke, and this, these headphones are going to block out the sound. And like, but they're not looking at the fact that the stove's on fire and the smoke's going to continue to be produced, and you're going to have to upgrade to bigger and bigger air filters, and you're going to have to get more and more specialized headphones to, again, use their metaphor. But like the actual core issues never addressed. And that's one thing that I really appreciate about your approach. And I think I'll probably like sprinkle my different like experiences with you because if anybody didn't gather yet, Ralph is my chiropractor. And at this point, I think I've been seeing you for at least 4 or 5 years at this point.
That's that's right.
Yeah. And even just the most recent time, I'm like, I hobble into hobble into your adjusting table, and I'm just like, I need you. And it's I know at this point, just in the experience that I've had with you, where like I want that like immediate like walk away and everything's like no pain whatsoever. I will say I got home that night and felt much better, but like almost like clockwork, over the course of 24 hours after I've seen you and after you've done this process where you'll adjust things that are nowhere near where my pain site is, and I'm just like, okay, like maybe eventually he'll go over there, maybe he won't need to go there. But I've seen you enough and had enough experience that I just know after 24 hours, the pain's usually gone or almost all the way gone. And by 48 hours, usually I'm back to normal. And it's like magic, but it's not magic. It's science. And like you said, it's having this long time approach and perspective of learning, like you said, the clinical, but also the science behind the things. And just as you've seen over time and being able to reproduce in clients that there are certain ways that work, and primarily being able to identify where's the burning stove. And I think what's cool about your approach as well is that however you do it, you're able to detect that. And I'll tell people before they see you, it's like, it kind of seems a little weird. Like he'll just like, he waves his hand over your back, like he'll like touch your ear or your neck, and then all of a sudden he knows where to adjust you. And I'm just telling you it works. Can you explain a little bit more about what that is that you're doing and how you know to find the stove?
Yeah, exactly. That is really critical. I like to explain that before people get too weirded out. I am not doing anything that can't be proven clinically and scientifically. I'll start there.
Yeah.
So there's three approaches. Like what we learn in school is great. It gives you a starting point, and that's just, bones out of place. You feel a hard spot and you punch it and crunch it or whatever. And it gives you temporary relief. But the science behind it is that you're not hitting the nervous system at the sweet spot. It's like a golf club. You can hit. I'm going to use a golf analogy. I'm not much of a golfer anymore, but if I was a good hack golfer, and I would always have this slice. So when you slice a ball, it goes off away from you, and it never goes down the fairway when you do that, and it's always a shorter shot. You didn't hit the sweet spot on the club. So in what I'm doing, I am not going for the pain point and finding the spot there. I'm going for where is the nervous system most open for an input that will kind of explode and take the messaging or the release further and further down the fairway. And that is, I mean, the science behind it. And when I'm checking it's basically, this would be called a tonal based technique. And there are a lot of them out, there's a few out there. But this particular one, we're looking at the whole spine the whole time. And I drop into the nervous system at a place that's away from the pain because the pain is just guarding that spot. And so I'm like diving below it. And when I can release it there, the rippling effect that goes to the nervous system initially, it's still swollen tissue where you were feeling pain is still swollen. That's why it takes you 24 to 36 hours or whatever. It takes a while for that swelling to drain. The classic example, you go get work done at the dentist. And after the Novocaine wears off, what do you got? What do you have?
Still a lot of pain, a lot of
Yeah,
soreness.
yeah, because those tissues are still full of blood and swollen. But after a day or two in an ideal world, everything goes away and it feels normal again. So I'm tapping into that and I'm letting you know, look, the swelling is still going to be there. But I've removed the interference, so your body's going to start working on that swelling.
Yeah.
And of course, make you feel better.
Yeah, and it does work incredibly so
And it
because
works, and it works different than the instant wow. The instant
Mhm.
wow feels great, but then the next day you feel like a tank ran over you sometimes. And what good is that? Because you're not really in alignment. No, the other thing is, and I don't want to belabor it long, but I'm trying to break down the patterns that have developed long term in your body. You may have felt, oh, I just had pain last week. But the reality is what got you to that pain was a series of patterns of repetitive stresses or maybe a car accident combined with them, any number of things. I have to break those down so your body stops sending bad feedback to your brain saying this spot needs to be adjusted every time. If I have to adjust the same spot every time, something's wrong. It's your pattern has to break that.
I'm really glad you mentioned that because and it's fun because over the years, like, you'll explain more and more about like how and what you do and like explain the process. But one thing that has been cool and that I think this would be more so for people who have had chiropractic care and maybe aren't seeing a chiropractor that has the same perspective and approach as you is that, yeah, you shouldn't have pain in the same areas. And I remember when I first came to you, I had my like list of like, oh yeah, like I had this injury and so I always have pain right here. And then I'm like, oh yeah, and then I had this injury and I always have pain right here. And a couple of those areas, I haven't had the same kind of pain there. I think since I first started working with you. So after those first few visits, you completely cleared out those patterns. Whereas now, oh, and I'll share this for my like humbling story and then like credit and kudos to you, Ralph, which I know you love, humbly love.
I know
But
where you're going on this one.
oh, I know you know. So yeah, so to give background, I did CrossFit. I did I've always been active. I've played sports, etc. I still really like CrossFit. I know it's not your favorite, Ralph, but I still really like it. I do eventually want to get back into it. However, the thing that I found so frustrating is I was landing on a consistent pain in the same spot, and it would be like this like ticking time bomb where like I'd go so long and all of a sudden, man, like I'm laid out. Like my lower back was just like, you're done. You don't get to do anything else with your life. You don't get to like walk. And it was like really horrible. You always saved me. And, it'd take a couple, this would not be a 48-hour fix. It would usually take 1 to 2 weeks of seeing you consistently and then eventually it'd go away. I'm like, okay, cool, I'm fine again. And all the while, I know that Ralph would be like, hey, I really think you should get some x-rays. And you'd been saying this probably since I first started seeing you. And I'm kind of leery about x-rays in the first place. Like I don't like if you can avoid them, like I don't want to be exposed or whatever. And I was just like, no, like I've been fine like my whole life. I don't feel like I need x-rays. Like it's something else. Like I just got to figure out how to move better, whatever, to prevent this. And I don't feel like you pushed it too strongly toward like as it kept happening, you're like, I really think you should get x-rays. And so finally, Ryan, you actually somehow you convinced, I don't know, between you and I, we convinced Ryan to get his x-rays. So he did. And he finds out he's got an inch discrepancy between his leg lengths. And I was like, whoa, which Ryan was a professional athlete. And for him to not have known that all this time, like, poor guy, that would have been fantastic to know 25 years ago. Um,
Yes, it would have.
yeah. But thankfully, like he got that. He recommended exactly what size heel lift to get, and he started to experience like really significant relief right away. So then I was like, fine, I'll get my x-rays. And so I went and I got my x-rays. I had pain the day I got the x-rays, the day I got the results, and I sent them to you. And then when I got the heel lift, so I was having off and on pain in that same spot. I put the heel lift in my shoe. And at that point, you only had me on half the height that I needed to start with. The next day, my pain was gone. And I was just like, are you kidding me? Like, which like on one hand was like awesome, right? To discover something that was going to help mitigate the pain. But on the other hand, was so frustrating that I waited so long to get the darn x-rays. And then eventually I I still was having problems in that same area. You had me go up to the full size heel lift that I need. And while I still have had pain in that same area, I think part of that's because I have a, I don't know what to call it, a fussy disc. Um,
Yes.
but my fussy disc continues to flare. But the flare-ups have been like, and this is what you said, I think if you do this, and I think if you get the heel lift, your pain moments when your flare-ups will be much less frequent and they'll be much less worse. And that's been 100% true. Ever since I started bringing the heel lift, they're less frequent. And when it happens, like in this most recent flare-up, just this past weekend when I saw you, um, I was feeling all kind of crooked. I was like, no, but it was a 48-hour fix. Like, I mean, I probably should see you again in the next week just to make sure everything's clear up, but I feel totally fine. There's literally nothing. I feel fine. So,
So that's the magic, is that the mechanics are there. And by the way, it's not everybody that needs this. About 25 to 30% of the population,
sure.
but we check for it by X-ray. There's
Right.
only You can't measure on the outside. There's just too many fallacies. But it's been the published studies, and this just works every single time to like dial in where people are at.
Yeah, and I think so back to kind of what I brought that up is that it's super helpful that you encourage people to recognize you shouldn't have pain in the same spot. Like if you're doing all the things to, like you're saying, help address the core issue, help address the nervous system, break those patterns. And then for me, we identified there's a leg discrepancy, so we had to help bring continued balance by putting that heel lift in my shoe. Like you said, not everybody has that, but everybody has a burning stove. And so
Yeah.
finding the burning stove to break the pattern is so important when you're dealing with a holistic chiropractic personnel. And so I actually want to segue in hearing what are the different kinds of ailments that you've seen improve or reverse as a result of chiropractic? Because you've told me stories and it just again over the years that you've been adjusting me, like I'm there on the table, there's a good amount of time to chat. We'll chat about all kinds of things. But the stories you've told me on, oh yeah, I had this person and they had this and I did this and then yeah, now they don't deal with that anymore. I'm like, what? So without me answering for you, what is the vast scope of ailments that chiropractic can help improve?
Yeah, it's exactly what you were bringing up in the last segue there. That I was thinking the same stuff. It's good to know
Hmm.
what you do treat and what you don't treat, and know how to and know, hey, that's not for me. There's something else going on here, and being able to
Sure.
recognize that early for people is very, very helpful. And
And just to
yeah,
interject really quick there, I appreciate you saying that too, because I think some people at least I've heard people describe chiropractic as like the cure-all. Like, oh, you just gotta see, like, and then you gotta see the chiropractor, like that'll fix it. When like, I think that's true. There's, I think, a massive benefit across the board for chiropractic. But like you said, like you have to know what you treat and don't. So thank you for saying that. Sorry,
it,
continue.
exactly. There's so much there. You shouldn't be jealous about what you can't treat, because believe me, we're treating way more than almost every medical professional out there. Um, and there's very selective. And so most things that we treat relate to triggering your organ systems, various body centers to work right again. It's not, people may come in with low back and headache. That's the two most common things, or sciatica. But the reality is there's a cause behind it. And I've had medical doctors write me testimonials about their prostate completely healing overnight. And you think, oh my gosh, chiropractors treat prostate? No, we do not treat prostate. But we do treat the nerves. We treat the nerves that feed that prostate, and it balanced his information going to and from, and it made the prostatitis go away. Now, this guy, I knew him very well, and we had a relationship over, I don't know, it seems like 7-10 years. And he claims that it got rid of it. It doesn't always happen like that. Again, we're not treating the prostate problem. We're treating the underlying cause, which was the nervous system imbalance. Somebody might have a cough or something like that gets better, or they can breathe easier. Breathing easier is a result of freeing up the rib cage. So, and not just the rib cage, but the entire length of the spinal cord, so that when you take a deep breath in, it's like it's oxygenating better because it's more flexible, like trimming a sail on a sailboat. If you get the right position, I know most of you guys aren't sailors, but I did that too. And you have it right, you just scream on the water, and if you don't, you just lay flat on the water. And most people are laying flatter on the water than they need to be. There are many. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, I think a lot of people too don't realize how integrated our body is. And that's part of the challenge because we're just conditioned by the way the medical system's set up. If you go to your general practitioner, you complain about a certain ailment, they send you to a specialist. And like you just said, you adjust and allow the spine to be more fluid or whatever to expand, allow you to take in a deeper breath, you get more oxygen. More oxygen has a huge impact on your overall health. If you're not getting enough oxygen, it's hindering so many different systems, but because you helped airways and everything work better, that then impacts the rest. So sorry, I just wanted to emphasize like how, and part of the reason why chiropractic is so effective, and I think people will be like, what? But isn't it still just like they're adjusting or they're doing whatever? Like, how does that impact everything else? But it's like a waterfall effect, or what is it? The
A
just
cascade.
cascade, thank you, of effects of one thing affects the other, affects the other, and
Yeah,
it goes on and on.
definitely an indirect on some of it is completely direct, but there's so much power from the nerves controlling every single organ, system, and cell of your body. There are different pathways that it works on, but when a person comes back to me and says my digestion is better, or I wasn't having regular bowel movements and now I am, or those headaches, migraine headaches that I've been getting 3 times a week suddenly, or once a week, or they went away completely. Also, the big area that I've worked a lot with is pregnancy, and all the way through from the first moment of after conception, shortly after, all the way through to postpartum issues that come along, and the babies that come out of the womb. Everybody needs adjusting right from the start. I've worked with kids who were 9 hours old, and I was supposed to be there at the birth, but I slept through it.
Easy to do, yeah.
Yeah, all
Babies
the
come
way
at
up
weird
to,
hours.
they always do, and I need my sleep. But no, it's amazing. Babies respond really well. Colic is a thing that responds wonderfully, and there's so many stages of development in a child that you want to catch early, and there are very specific things to do to help shift and change that trajectory so that they start normalizing. And there actually in chiropractic there's a specialty just for that, just for working with the neonates and the Todd. It just covers that's their whole practice because it's such a big event. Also, unfortunately, due to a variety of reasons, we have a very large autistic spectrum situation going on in our culture. And so I see many, many autistic children. I've had tremendous, it's not just the chiropractic, it's a combination of chiropractic and nutrition, lifestyle changes. But I've got one kid right now that I worked with for, say, I think it's about 6 years that it was 5 or 6. I think he was 22 and he's 27 or 8. I watched this guy go from like you couldn't get him through my threshold because he was afraid of everything and candles. You couldn't have him lit in. I remember there was a candle at the front door that was not even lit. He was just afraid of it and he was afraid of the
Oh,
dogs barking, had the earphones and the dark sunglasses, and just everything in this world was an insult to his nervous system. And
mm,
at this point, he's going to be living on his own. He's going to have a job. He's gone
wow.
through a lot of the correction combined with the nutrition changes we made were just were stunning. And we started with him at an older age, which your best shot is when you're really, really young
Hmm.
to see these kids. And they're really, what are their alternatives? Because they're not getting out of these stages very easily with other protocols. So I'm very excited to work with autistic spectral disorders, people of all ages, really.
Hmm.
Everybody needs chiropractic, and it doesn't really matter. And yesterday I had it seemed like it was an afternoon of autistic spectrum disorder, which brought it up to my attention this morning. I think it's wonderful. All people tend to get somewhat better. I won't say all people, there's always exceptions, but so many people can get somewhat better than where they are today, whatever they're given in circumstances in life. They have an opportunity to improve the expression of their nervous system, their ability to talk. Look, well, and I don't want to talk too long, but I'm going to give you this one because this is my grandfather. I'm in chiropractic college at the time, and my administrator goes, well, my grandfather had a major stroke, and I wanted to help him any way we could. So she got me a chiropractor that did a tonal-based technique at the time, like I'm doing, similar. I literally would watch him on the table. We'd have to just about lift him off the wheelchair, and he couldn't move his entire left side. His leg would pull up an inch and a half short on the left side.
Hmm.
I would watch him on the table standing right at the feet. And this happened so often. His legs would grow even on the table as the doctor was putting pressure. Legs pull up according to stress and tension. So,
Mm.
people talk about healing legs. Well, that's a whole other thing. But I just want to tell you that a lot of that is very transient and changeable. And I would literally watch it, and then he'd get up off the table and speak in clear, coherent sentences for a while, for several hours, and it would
Hmm.
slowly get back. He was coming in 3 times a week for 3 months. I watched him go from completely paralyzed on the left side to being able to walk himself to the bathroom. The guy was 83 years old when this
Wow.
happened. The older you get, the less resilience your body has. So chiropractic works.
Yeah. And I mean, I've had kind of back to the pregnancy standpoint, I'm grateful that I got to do my second pregnancy with you and then have both Reese and Riley adjusted, which I do need to get them to you again. They're due. But I remember when Riley was just itty tiny, we brought him in and same thing. He didn't like it. He still doesn't like it, but it's quick and I know that it's benefiting him. And so we're grateful that our whole family has been able to benefit. Can you also speak to the benefits of chiropractic for someone who has MS or certain autoimmune conditions? What have you seen with that? I know we've talked about that too before.
Oh, yeah, MS is literally my favorite condition to treat because you talk about those wow effects that
Hmm.
people. This is like right out of a B.J. Palmer movie, which is one of the guys that did so much for chiropractic starting out. He and his dad. Um, I have with I will literally watch hands grow an inch and a half. Like when I say hand, I mean like somebody sticks their arms out. I'm thinking one patient. Every single time they go even instantly afterwards, there's fire. It's like cold hands turn to life again.
Hmm.
Instant warmth, tremendous. I mean, I've got like 4 of them right now, and they're all every time when they get an adjustment, I hear the words "Wow, wow, wow" continually coming out of their mouths, and they don't know each other, and they're all doing this because the tracks are getting turned back on that are shutting down from being demyelinated and so on. So the point is that chiropractic turns that life back on in those situations. Other types of autoimmune, you'd have to name them, but yeah, I've had good success with that, combining it with nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
Even things like the chronic fibromyalgia responds well. It's indirectly. It's
Mm-hmm.
the adjustments
Mm-hmm.
make your nervous system more efficient, and then everything else that you start to do to it just softens or dampens the procedures and so on. I mean, dampens the function of how your body's responding to life.
Yeah. No.
Sounds kind of esoteric, but I mean, I just mean that you're able to function a whole lot better.
No, I think it makes so much sense. You think of clearing the different pathways of your nervous system and like if you can breathe better, if you're, I mean, if it's allowing your body to function in a greater capacity to combat inflammation. We are in, unfortunately, a very toxic environment. So, and like you said too, even like from a digestive standpoint, like our ability to combat toxins in a lot of ways comes down to how well we can eliminate and how well our body can process that. And so if you're helping the digestive system to do that in a more effective way, if you're helping us to get more oxygen, if you're helping like all those different core functions of the body functioning in a more optimal way is able to combat the unfortunate dynamic of our environment and even too like you said the stresses that we face, all the different things that we experience on a day-to-day basis. You're basically helping our body do what God designed it to do and to do that well, which actually segues into the last question I wanted to touch on. And we did talk about this a little bit the last time I had you on. And that is talking about getting aligned with God's design through chiropractic. And I do think that's such a good message. One of the things too I've loved about our conversations, Ralph, is I know how much you love God and how much like you love his word and how like you can nerd out probably all the more on God and theology and biblical things as you can with chiropractic. So how do those two things relate, chiropractic and God's design?
Oh yeah, there's a sermon or two here, but I'll try to keep it short. Uh, you think about nutrition. We all know that you eat a certain way, you're going to get sick. You eat more healthy, people understand that there is a healthier way to eat, right? Because uh, it's more equipping your body. It's designed. If you eat a certain, well, I got off on the tangent here that I didn't want to go to. Okay, if you're eating in a way that makes your body feel stronger, feel better, you're going to want to keep eating that way if you're wanting. And the reason is that God designed you that way.
Yeah, yeah.
And so the same is true with chiropractic. Chiropractic works to just, we don't heal anything. We put people back to where they were. God is the best designer. There's never going to be a cleaner patent than the human body designed by God. And
Amen.
and so the closer we get to the design, the better a person's going to function. It's really not rocket science there. We just try to remove the obstacles, not throw new things into the mix.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's even too when I'm working with clients and talking about, like you just said, like with food. I just had a guest on recently who wrote an awesome book. I actually think you'd really enjoy it.
Oh,
It's called Nourished by Design. It just came out
wow,
at
that
the
sounds cool.
yeah, and his subline is a Christ-centered approach to I don't know if it's food or nutrition. He's getting double promos in one of my other episodes. Um, but we were just talking about how um, it really does come down to God's design. He was talking about food and how God made food to be enjoyable. Like if being healthy feels strained or it feels like it's, oh, I can't you know, I don't want to eat this or I don't want to do this because it's it doesn't taste good or it's no fun, it's bland. He's like, well, then you're doing it wrong. He's like, that's not like there are so many different flavors and combinations of like all the food that God has provided. And when you cook from home and you use those whole ingredients, it makes such a big difference. And I think to your point, with our bodies as well, when we're doing what it takes to put our body into God's design, it makes such a huge difference. Um,
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that what you're seeing is over time. I've been watching this for the whole trajectory of my chiropractic career, and I watched nutrition evolve. And where it's evolved to is getting more and more like God designed it to work, not the other way around.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're heading in a good direction there. So with that said, we definitely want to partner with God's design, allow our bodies to function that way. And so people are probably hearing this like, okay, wow, like this sounds great. I definitely want to experience this. So for anybody who's in North County, San Diego, you can contact Ralph and he can actually see you and you can get his care, which I highly, highly recommend. And I'll put Ralph's contact in the show notes. But for someone who's not in North County, San Diego, how can they find a good chiropractor near them? What would you say to look for? Where can they go? What would you recommend?
So there are three kinds of chiropractic care, back to that: tonal, postural, and bone. And I highly recommend a technique that's associated with tonal, which means working directly, saying that the nerves control the muscle and the posture and the bone. They all come, those bone and muscle come secondary. So there are techniques that just adjust only the top vertebra or two. Those are upper cervical techniques. Those are tonal based. Uh, there's one that's called torque release technique that's more widely known, and there's some like that. The technique I do is MC squared, which I think is the hybrid of torque release technique and the upper cervical techniques, which is why I do it, because it addresses everything all on a tonal base. So when you get to whatever town you're in, if you're having trouble, you could contact me by email or the contact information I gave you, and I'd
Yeah.
be happy to try to help. Um, if you're not in it, but you have to get first to the type of technique that would be right, and then second, scour the website to see if they really seem to be talking a lot about that technique or just sort of general chiropractic nomenclature, because that's not really telling you that they what they know. Then you might have to call them, and also reading reviews.
Hmm.
Those things all help together. Sometimes, people can do a really good Insta, or they can just do podcasts that sound really cool and everything, but you got to test their their wares. So you need to look at it from more than one angle. Usually
Yeah.
you can find good with that information alone, calling them directly, looking at their website, and looking at reviews. I think you can come pretty close. But you do have to know that you're looking for a tonal based technique, in my opinion. That's your starting point.
Yeah, and that's great. So that's the kind of language people can use is they can call or try and, like you said, scour their website and ask, is this a tonal-based chiropractic
Well, you could,
office?
yeah, I mean, and that's like not widely known. So upper cervical, is this an upper cervical only kind of practice, or mostly? Is it how does it work on the nervous system?
Yeah.
What's more important, adjusting bones and the nervous system? Um,
Really quizzing
yeah,
them.
that's kind of a yeah, it's kind of a lead question, a softball. But the real thing is you have to be looking for those approaches that are going to be influencing the nerves first.
Hmm.
They have an emphasis on the nerves first.
Hmm.
And when they do that, I think that's where your starting point is.
Yeah, you're on the right track.
Yeah.
Okay, well, perfect. I think this was a great overview and just kind of looked into deeper on chiropractic. Like I said, I'll also put the show notes, our last conversation, because I think that one was so good as well. And honestly, it's been one of my most popular episodes. So if you're listening to
Wow.
this one and yeah, if you're listening to this one, you'll hear more from Ralph. I'll put that in the show notes as well. But otherwise, Ralph, thank you so much for being on again and for bailing me and my family out of all of our back pains and helping our smoke and alarms and getting to the burning stove.
Well,
And
I gotta get you off to a really good start. You're about to go away and enjoy yourselves, and I want to make sure you don't have any aches and pains while you're gone.
I know anytime we have like a vacation or like a trip, I'm always like, we got to go see Ralph and make sure we're all adjusted because I won't be able to see him. Or if you're like, hey, I'm gonna go whatever on road trip, I'm like, oh no, like I'm like, I have to be so careful. I can't mess myself up. Ralph's not gonna be there to bail me. And usually you are. You're so good. I'll be like text you. I'm like, can I come over right now? So I appreciate you a ton. Any parting words as we wrap up?
Stay away from the hard mattresses. No,
Oh.
I'm telling you for your trip.
Oh,
That's not
okay.
really what I mean. No, yeah, sleeping and pillows are so hard to tell people because I get those questions regularly,
hmm
and you really have to hands-on try out mattresses, try out pillows. You can't just go by what people say, reviews. That's another thing. Parting words would be, come see me, come find out what chiropractic can do for you, because you don't know what you don't know. In the words of this friend of mine who's an attorney, she told me as we went through a whole treatment plan, she was very skeptical.
hmm
Afterwards, she said, if I had known then what I know now, I never would have waited this long.
Right, right. Yeah, isn't that how it goes? Even like I said with my whole X-ray thing. But again,
Oh, I didn't know when I went to chiropractic college. I mean, I went there with the emphasis that, hey, this sounds really cool and neat. I had no idea what I was getting into because it was, unfortunately, was so much more advanced and better than I ever dreamed it would be. The nervous system controls virtually every cell, organ, and tissue of your body. And we need to remember that as a human population, that it is even more important than dental care. Because if your teeth fall out, you can put new ones in, but you can't. You only have one nervous system, and
yeah,
once that thing breaks down too far, we can't repair everything.
yeah.
So let's get at it. If you need care, let's talk.
Sounds good. Well, we'll definitely put your contact in the show notes. So for all you folks listening and you're eager to contact Ralph, I'll have that there for you. And again, Ralph, thank you so much for being on, for sharing your wisdom, your experience, and honestly giving people an opportunity to probably get some help that's going to make a big difference for them. So thank you so much.
Robin, Robin, thanks for having me back. You're more than welcome. It was just a joy because when we get together anyway, we laugh and talk like this. It's pretty much what we talk about.
Yeah, yeah, it's just like another an appointment.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Sure thing. Thank you so much for listening to the Vision Driven Health Podcast today. I hope this episode inspired you, supported you, and blessed you in some way. If it did, it would mean the world if you would leave a 5-star written review on Apple Podcast and share this episode on your social media. The more reviews and shares this gets, the more people can be blessed and encouraged in creating a Jesus-centered, sustainable, healthy lifestyle. If you want to hang with me and other Jesus-loving ladies who are creating healthy habits that last, be sure to join my free Facebook group, the Made Well Mastermind. Use the link in the show notes to join. Be blessed with hope, joy, and health. I'll see you next week. Again, the Vision Driven Health Podcast is under the umbrella of Made Well Health Incorporated. The content on this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. It is not intended for medical advice. It does not take the place of medical advice or treatment from a physician. Listeners should consult their own doctor or a qualified healthcare professional for specific health concerns and questions.